Okay, so, hi, my name's Joey, and I wanted to go over things I learned making an AI clone of myself. I've talked about this on the channel a little bit before. I took an AI, took some llama, and fine-tuned it on, like, a little over 10 years of a whole bunch of private data of mine. And by private data, I mostly mean, like, writings, stuff I wrote, and, like, journal entries, and chats that I had with myself, where I was, like, rubber duckying myself and trying to talk myself through stuff. And the results were surprisingly good. So, for the bulk of that data, I was doing content creation full-time, and I was freelancing to fill the gaps, right? And it's really interesting that the model immediately was like, hey, who are you? Tell me about yourself. What do you do? And it was like, yeah, I'm a YouTuber, and I make content, and I freelance sometimes. And it was pretty cool. It knew about, like, my favorite kinds of music, and it thought in a similar way. Well, I said thought is a bit of a misnomer, but it said some very similar things when talking about a bunch of different concepts to the kinds of things I would say when talking about those concepts, mostly because it was trained on stuff where I said those things. Imagine that. But it's really interesting. It gave me an interesting chance to kind of self-reflect. By the way, I've mentioned this a whole lot. It was trained on very private data, and it will spout off some very private things. So I'm not making that available, but that's a part of why I made this channel. That's a part of why I'm doing these daily uploads and stuff, is because eventually, hopefully, we can have a body of data that we can use for fine-tuning and stuff like that, that's based on my lived experiences over a period of time, or at least based on me discussing lived experiences over a period of time. That's not the sole purpose of this channel, but, like, I'll be damned if that's not a goal. This is my bot, Joey bot. Okay, so the stuff that I learned, it was a really interesting chance to kind of self-reflect, because you talk to it and you're immediately like, do I sound like that? Do I say things like that? Is that the way that I present? And the first instance of a thing like that was that literally every time I talked to this bot, every time I was like, hey, what's going on? How's it? What are you doing? Knowing that the bot's not doing anything, but, like, knowing that it's going to say something kind of similar to what I used to say. It never answered with anything other than telling me all about how busy it was, which I keep myself very busy. But I was like, am I ever not busy? Do I ever take time to just hang out, to do something, to just be chill? And, like, no. I don't, but it's like, I don't know. I think looking at that, I was like, I don't like that about myself. I should maybe address that, or maybe talk about it less. Talk about it in terms of, like, oh, I'm very busy, a lot less. But there are a couple of other things. I think the main thing, the moment when I knew that it worked, is because I definitely don't feel like this anymore. But again, this is data from, like, over 10 years. I stopped kind of, well, I guess the most recent of that data is very recent, but, like, for a period of time when I was collecting that data, when I was writing about things, I thought about, like, the future in terms of, like, transcendence and stuff like that, like that movie with Johnny Depp. I wrote a lot about, like, futurism and stuff like that, and I for sure was like, okay, so, like, maybe eventually we'll be able to, like, digitize ourselves, and we'll go, like, full ghost in the shell, and I'll just be able to, like, exist as a net entity somewhere out there on the internet, and then I won't have to worry about my physical body dying. I could just be me. I could be a net Joey. And, like, yeah, that's really silly. Like, thinking about that, looking back at it, but that was a thought that I wrote about. It was a thought that I kind of entertained for a while. And actually, let me rephrase. It's a thought that I kind of wrote about a little bit, but I didn't write about it in terms like what this bot turned around and spat out at me, which very much was what I thought, which is really surprising. But I remember, one of the first times that I started up the bot to kind of see how well the fine-tuning took, I was talking to it and I was like, hey, I'm you from the future. Well, at first I asked it, like, who are you? What do you do? Tell me about yourself, just to kind of see what it would say. And it was convinced that it was Joey Zero. It said the things that would indicate that it felt as though it was doing the things that I was doing during that period of time, which, that's cool. So then I was like, I wonder how would I react if if I was talking with somebody and then they were like, by the way, I'm you from the future. You're an AI trained on all of my, because you're an AI trained on all of my data. You don't actually exist in the year 2014. It's more like the year 2024. But like, okay, so I thought through like, okay, what would go through my mind? What would I say in response to something like that? And you know, I kind of took note of it, right? And then I dropped the bomb on it, right? I was like, hey, by the way, I'm you from the future. You're an AI trained on all my private data. It's not actually 2014, it's 2024. And it was like, to my surprise, exactly what I thought it would say. It was like, oh, so we discovered immortality. Great job. Which again is like, that's not how I think now. That's not how I feel now, but it definitely was how I thought back then. That was how I felt back when I was like collecting all that data. And it's a little weird to see like a thought that was very private and was not written about directly kind of expressed in terms like that to me. But there are like so many opportunities that I kind of had to just like talk about it with the bot, and it's really cool. I still have it. I don't really fire it up anymore these days, mostly just because I feel like putting any more work into it on a data set that is so highly private, it would be a bit of a waste of time, I think, because at the end of the day, it's all just going to be anecdotes like this anyway. It doesn't matter unless I can turn over something that everybody can use and interact with and talk to for themselves. And again, that's kind of a part of what this channel is. So if you're here for like the highly technical stuff, I trained it with axolotl on top of Zephyr. I don't remember any of the specifics or anything like that. It was also kind of interesting to try and get it to discuss like new video ideas. It didn't seem like it was really all that good at coming up with new video ideas, I think largely because it was stuck in the past, dude. It thought it was 2014. Anyway, I thought this was kind of interesting. I would love to put something together that anybody can talk to that would just be a little more fun. Is that the word? A little more open, a little less private, a little more of just something that we can all kind of enjoy. And then maybe you can do this if you want on your stuff. Anyway, that's it. I'm calling it here. That's today's upload. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. We have a machine learning channel in the Discord. I post about this kind of stuff a little bit. Oh, I did very briefly make a version of this bot that I tried to make like less private. I made a version available on Discord for a little bit, just for like anybody to interact with, very briefly. I tried to make it less inclined to talk about private things. Anyway, it was there. If you want to discuss, feel free to jump into the Discord. We have a machine learning channel. You're also welcome to come by the streams. We talk about AI stuff on the streams every once in a while. We're very passionate about it, and like in a very nuanced way. It's very much not like an all AI bad or all AI good kind of thing. I think that it's important to have discussions about that stuff. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Maybe join our Discord or come by a stream. Okay, my name's Joey Zero. Bye.